Whoops. All right. I have pulled a in this community we call that the high rye, starting off with the mute. So sorry about that. Anyway, well, I said a whole bunch. Let's say it all over again. Welcome to the show. Welcome to this week, and what a week we have had. It's been a fun week on the market. It's been a fun week in the news, and it's been a fun week over on Discord. Now that we have a Discord server for you guys, which is absolutely fantastic, I will mention as well with the Discord, the link I was using was a temporary 7-day link, so it expired. I have found out how to make a permanent link. I've attached that permanent link to this video down in the extra info part. I'll also throw it into the comments for those of you who are coming in after the show. That link will work forever. I have updated it on my main videos, so going forward, the link will work for anybody who wants to go out and check out the Discord, which is a lot of fun. Okay. A couple of neat things coming up. We have now started once a month. We're going to do a deep dive, an ETF deep dive. So we're going to be doing that right now. Currently, if you go to the community tab, we are voting on the first ETF deep dive. We've had, I think, 125 votes or something in that area so far. So be sure to be over there. Hit the one you like. And if you look at these ETFs and say, I don't like any of them, throw ETFs you want me to throw into the ETF pool. I will throw those in for you. We do keep the pool now over on Discord. So if you want to see what's in the pool, by all means, go over there, take a look. Let me know what you want me to add to the pool. I am perfectly good with that. Okay. Whew. A little bit about Blossom. Blossom, by the way, if you guys have not yet checked that out, they are that social media app for basically for investors. So you'll find myself, you'll find most of the big Canadian YouTubers over there on Blossom. There is a link as well for that down below. Check it out. Come on over. If you do join up on Blossom, be sure to follow me because I would absolutely love to follow you back and then throw in my 2 cents every so often when you guys are over there chatting away. So Discord, Blossom, I think we got through most of the housework. And holy banana bread, look at all of the folks who are already here. Let's quickly hit up the chat here before we get into any of our news. Kevin was first in the house with a yeehaw. And Jonathan is ready for Freddie, which I think is actually a line out of a Queen song. All right. And let's see, Prairie Investor is here saying, good afternoon, community. Hope you are all having a great Sunday afternoon. Absolutely. There was also a message from me, which I have pinned. So we have decided that going forward, all super chat stickers and thanks, those are now just thrown right into that 0 to 100K TFSA challenge. So it's your opportunity to say, hey, I'm a part of that 100K when we get there. All right. Paul is in the house with a quick hello. Hello, Paul. And hello to Mary, who is in the house. Hello to Carlos, also in the house. When I keep saying a lot of these hellos, somebody once said it reminded them of the Romper Room show. And now I can't get that out of my mind. So it's like, through my magic mirror, I see Paul and I see Mary. I see Carlos. And no sound. Yes, we have fixed that. Hopefully I have fixed it. I think I have. And Wayne is in the house letting me know that there's no sound. No sound. Sorry, can't hear you. Greetings, Kansas. Yes, I had a friend who used to call me Kansas all the time. I don't know why. He just could not say Candace. So that's fine. Paul says the sound is good now. Fantastic. Fantastic. We got Patricia in the house with a quick old hi. And Jonathan here. Happy long weekend to all. Yes, this is a long weekend. So, of course, the TSX is closed tomorrow, as well as the U.S. markets are closed tomorrow as well, because down in the U.S. we have President's Day. So that's pretty good. Bismarcky is letting me know that I am coming out loud and clear. All right. I like to hear that. I like to hear that. So we got some snow here in Ontario this week. That's one of the reasons that our little guys over there on the side are shoveling snow, the bear and the bull. So I'll try to come up with a different theme every week for those guys. So yeah, we get a little bit of snow. It's been a little bit of cold. The Rideau Canal, they reopened it today, but you're not allowed to skate. You can only walk. So, what can you say? Um, Europe, George is in the house saying, "Guys, I'm hungry. What should a nice pizza or some delicious or what should okay, yeah, pizza or some delicious noodles? I would vote for pizza personally. Patricia loves the picture of the bear and the bull with the shovel. Snow, what's that? It's that white stuff we get on this side of the country. Actually, this year, I think British Columbia, like I think Vancouver and the island got quite a bit of snow compared to most years. I know when I used to live in Vancouver, there were definitely winters where I did not even see a flurry, but did see a lot of rain though. So that's always fun. All right, let's jump quickly into our first story. We'll get it done. We'll get it over with here. All right, here we go. So our first thing is all about the U.S. inflation report because that came out this week. Now, inflation did actually decrease in January, according to the CPI, but it did not increase as much as they had been anticipating. So it came in a little bit higher than expected. So right now, year over year, inflation in the U.S. is sitting at 3.1%. January saw an increase of 0.3%. They were hoping for it to only be 0.2%. So they kind of just missed on that. Now, stocks went crazy on Tuesday. We had a very, very, very deep red day. And that was as a result of these US inflation fears. Not so much, people weren't so much worried about inflation. They're worried about what this is going to mean to rate cuts. You know, a lot of people still wanted to see one early. But this has kind of put a small damper on that. Maybe not. We still had another thing as well called PPI. So the Producers Price Index that was also coming out this week, and yeah, it came in hot. So it rose 0.31%, or sorry, 0.3%. When it was forecast to only rise by 0.1%. So it also came in hot. And this monthly increase was the highest since August of 2023. So yeah, that definitely is not good. It's not going to be a situation. It's not a situation where we're going to be looking at more rate hikes in the U.S. They're past, and it's not even necessarily concerning when it comes to whether or not it's going to delay the rate cuts. What it's going to do, though, is it's just a little bit of a concern. And if we look at the next CPI and we start getting the same thing, then we get a little bit more. Then that becomes a lot more concerning. But right now, and I'm still saying, I thought for the U.S. it would be May. I'm going to still hold May as a rate cut in the U.S. Canada, I'm still sort of on the June fence. So May and June, when we look at the two of them. All right. Back to the whole pizza thing. Paul is saying Papa Leo's Pizza in the Tri-Cities. Oh, there we go. Patricia says it's snowing today in Montreal. Yes, it's actually right now. I look at the window, which is right there. And it's a very, very fine snow. It's not hard. It's not a heavy snow, but it's there. So yeah, we definitely got a little bit of snow today. Wayne said that's why they call it the wet coast. Oh, right, because of all of the rain. Absolutely. Very long weekend, 36 hours of work. Holy banana bread. I hope you're getting some overtime for that, Eddie. I really, really do. And Wayne says, after the CPI number came out, gold plunge filled my buy order. Well, there we go. Yeah, there was a lot of good deals on Tuesday. I think the TSX, oh my God, it was like, it was down a lot. There was a lot of really, really, really good deals out there. So that was kind of a fun little thing for us this week. All right, our next story. Let's pull it up. We'll get through the news here, get it out of the way. I don't mind. Trump versus NATO. So, technically, this happened over last weekend. But in typical Donald Trump style, Trump basically told NATO that he could, if he's elected back in as president, he's going to allow them to attack any NATO countries that do not pay their full commitment. So that's a 2% GDP. Now, since that is happening, it's interesting. NATO right now, they're projecting that 18 out of 31 of the member countries are going to meet that target. So that's 58%. But here's the funny thing. A year ago, it was only 35% of the target members meeting that 2% GDP commitment. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So for NATO members over in Russia right now, with the war in Ukraine and all of the tension that's there, a Russian invasion it's not out of the question. And so a lot of countries are sort of getting a little bit kind of spooked by this. This has actually provoked some countries to spend more money to try to get themselves up to that 2% GDP. Now, here's the interesting thing. In Canada, we have not met that 2% for a long time. And if you even if Trump was in, there's no way he would allow Russia to attack Canada, because we're on the US, on their doorstep. So we're pretty much safe from it. But more or less over in Europe, there's a little bit of uncertainty in regards to this. It's hard to say whether or not he's actually serious, because you got to realize I find Donald Trump does tend to talk a big game. So I don't think he would actually go through with it, but there are some NATO leaders that think he might go through with it. So we kind of have to sort of see how that is going to turn out. And Paul goes, yeah, Trump logic. And there we go. Bleak is in the house. So hey. And Wayne says, my U.S. friends tell me that this election will be the last Democratic election. There's a lot of conspiracy theories in the States. And I don't know. I would like to see if we could secure it. If we could secure an election online, that to me would be the best way to go. But right now, it's hard to say. I mean, with hackers and the sophistication of hacking, especially once they start utilizing AI, it's going to get really difficult to have that happen. But I do know, like I've done some couple of municipal elections where I got to do it online, and it was fantastic. It was great. I loved it. But it would be nice if we had a way so that makes it a lot easier for people to vote. But the security becomes, of course, an issue. So we have to find a way to make sure that we're not running into issues. And, I think there needs to be electoral reform across, not just the US, but US, Canada. We need a better system. Bismarcky says, good old Don McCon. He's going to the poorhouse with all his lawsuits. And, that could very well be. It's kind of like, it's almost like watching a soap opera. And it's like, what's going to happen to the Don this week? He's kind of like, the villain, or maybe to some people, he might be the hero. I don't know, but it's fun. Patricia says, Thursday was a good day to add in. Nice. Let's see. And of course, Babunator says, the Donald. There we go. Jungle says, I am not a hawk, but I would like Canada to meet the 2%. I am okay with that. We're such a big country. There's so much waste right now when it comes to taxes and what that money is being used for. If we streamlined government and we actually stopped wasting so much money on useless things, there'd be no problem for us to hit that 2% commitment. I think that would be a good thing. We have so much coast to defend. If anything, we definitely need, we need better defense. We can't always rely on the U.S. because when you rely on a big partner like the U.S., it means that they get to call the shots a little bit more. So as a sovereign nation, it's nice to call our own shots. Paul said, Russia come over the North Pole to save us from Justin Trudeau. Yeah, you'd never know what can happen. But I don't, once again, I don't think the U.S. would allow that to happen. So. And Babinator says, Russia can't provide for their own people. Yeah, right now, running the whole war on Ukraine, that's draining all on its own. The amount of resources that are being committed to that. Then you add all of the economic sanctions against Russia. They've got to be hurting. The only thing I will say is that Russia knew this was coming before anybody else in the world did. So I'm sure they've been stockpiling for years and years to prepare for this. But I can't imagine it going on forever. That's for sure. All right. So good old Trump versus NATO. You gotta love it. Our next story, I'll bring it on up here. There we go. Japan slips. Yes. Look at the. It's kind of funny when I was trying to make a thumbnail, a little picture for this. All of my AI generators, because I use AI to make these pictures, because it's it's easy. They were kind of like, I was like, can I have a Japanese person slipping on a banana peel? And they were like, no. I'm like, but why? Why? But apparently I couldn't. But I could have just a plain old foot slipping on a banana peel. So anyway, that's kind of funny. So what's going on with Japan? So Japan, they've entered a technical, basically the end of last year, they entered a technical recession. So they did have 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. And this GDP growth, this negative GDP growth was enough to actually knock them out of third. They had the 3rd largest economy in the world. Now they have the 4th. So the 3rd is now Germany. Germany is the one who have taken that from them. Now it's kind of interesting. So right now, and here's the thing, even with inflation in Japan never got as high as it did in a lot of the rest of the world. And right now it's actually sitting at 3%. And here's the funny thing. When you talk about rate cuts, Japan is actually talking about hikes, because currently Japan has a negative interest rate. So their interest rate is negative 0.1%. And now the reason they have that is basically it encourages banks to lend more and businesses and consumers to borrow more to spur the economy. So when a central bank sets its key interest rates below 0, so any kind of a negative rate, basically what it means is that they then charge that percentage not to you. So it's not like you have to, it's not to you, or they charge the bank. So that means the banks, if they're holding their reserves, they have to pay a fee on what they're holding. Hence, it's in their best interest to lend money out. So it encourages the movement of money, gets money back going into the economy. Unfortunately, though, for Japan right now, it's predicted that the economy is going to continue with basically a lack of momentum for a while, because they've got no real key drivers of growth. Even though if you look at the Japanese stock market, there's a lot of stocks doing really well, but overall economy-wise, it's just stagnating. So it's not really doing so well. All right, now those of you who saw the thumbnail are probably wondering, wait, what about the bee? What isn't the thumbnail related to the stories? And yeah, here it is. Here we got a bee story. It's called "What's the Buzz?" So this is kind of interesting. So last year, good old Alberta, they produced $105.6 million worth of honey. And this was a new a new Canadian record. So as of 2023, Alberta has more than 300,000 honeybee colonies. So that's a ton of bees. Most of the province, it's actually the most of any province in Canada. So if you want to know who has the most honeybees, it's Alberta. And these bees account for about 40% of Canada's total honey production. So that's huge. And here's the interesting thing. The actual interest in beekeeping, it has grown huge in Alberta. And part of it is, well, we need bees to pollinate. That's what it all boils down to. It's not just about the honey. So the interesting thing is, so this interest in beekeeping, it has actually increased by 3 times in Alberta just over the last 16 years. So it has been getting pretty big. And when we look at the pollination side of the business, that basically is a $7 billion that pumps into the Alberta's agricultural sector because of that. So keep in mind, take some of the big key exports of Alberta, things like canola. That between canola and cattle as well, that basically brings in about 22 billion a year. And those, once again, both of those benefit from a high bee population. Certain crops also are super dependent on honeybees, and not just Alberta. You take over in BC. BC have their, the famous BC blueberries. They actually bring bees from Alberta to pollinate their blueberries. So that's kind of pretty cool. And what's really neat about this whole thing as well is when we're talking about some of the issues with bees, with the bee populations sort of falling all over the world, it's not that way in Alberta. They've been increasing. So Alberta is kind of bucking the trend when it comes to bees. So I guess in a way, Alberta has the bee's knees. They're doing really, really good. All right. Jordan is in the house with a happy Sunday afternoon, everyone. Hope all is well. And Vic is in traffic. Traffic is bad. Vic, I swear, Vic, you say you live under your mom, but sometimes I think you live in a mobile home because you're always in traffic. And Vic says, anyone score Trump's sneakers pre-sale sold for $399 a pair. Wow, that's kind of interesting. I don't know about his sneakers, but Paul's saying that they may have been gold colored, so that might be Trump's sneakers. Yikes. I know. Well, even when he had his mugshot, he was selling merchandise with his mugshot on it. So anything to make a dollar, Trump will find a way. So you got to give him credit for that tenacity when it comes to making money. So that's kind of cool. Now, the next story is really, really interesting because I actually put this story together just before I jump to the next story. Let's just come right down here. Whoops, to Seabass. Ex-queen bee breeder here. Love your channel. Thank you, C. Thank you, C. I have a cousin actually in not far from Nanaimo on Vancouver Island, and he used to breed bees. I don't know how many bees he still has, but every so often I still see pictures of some of the bees that he has on his farm. So that's kind of cool. And Vic says, look up the image, a bit garnish, but in keeping with his style. All right, perfect. All right. Our next story is all about a judge shortage. So Canada, right now, we've got a shortage of judges, and this is actually a serious problem. So Ottawa has been ordered to start appointing judges across the country faster. Right now, there's a lot of vacant judge slots. And because of that, we've got a bit of a backlog in the legal system. In some cases, it is leading to criminal cases being tossed out. So that's not good. Now, this all began basically with government reform to fix it. So the government, in the process of trying to fix the system for the whole process of appointing judges, well, since they started trying to fix it, back when they started, we had about 40 vacancies. And now we have 73. So that's quite a lot of judges. So right now, and this is kind of interesting, within Canada, so criminal cases need to be tried within 30 months. Or if they're not tried within 30 months, they're tossed out. Like, goodbye. Here you go. Get out of jail free card. Now, some charges, and these are some of the things that have been thrown out. Gun charges, at least one alleged sexual assault, and even a human trafficking case have been thrown out of Toronto's Superior Court just because they didn't have the judges. And here's an interesting thing. If we go back to Alberta, they may have the bees, but they don't have the judges. So in Alberta, nearly a quarter of criminal cases exceed that 30-month window. In more than 90% of these cases that are being thrown out involve serious and violent crimes. So that's kind of an interesting issue. We need to get some judges going as soon as possible. I'm like, we can't just be throwing people, especially violent criminals. We don't want to be throwing them back on the streets. So let's get some judges going. Now, in a related story to this, I received a summons to court 2 days ago, I think on Thursday. And the reason I have been summoned to court is that I am going to be up for jury selection. So basically, what is it? March 18th, I'm going to court to see if I will make a good juror. And if I do, I could be sitting on the jury of some trial. It could be a small trial, maybe it could be a big trial. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if I get into that situation, I'll tell you guys well, I'll tell you what I'm allowed to tell you all about it. As we go. I think after the trial, you're probably a little bit more able to talk about it, but I just found that kind of interesting because it tied into one of my stories. So, yeah, that was going to be kind of fun. All right, Paul says, canceled our Costco fridge stove order, delayed too long, and counter depth fridge is too small. We went to a Canadian appliance source and ordered the same GE stove and GE profile stand depth fridge. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Why not? And Jordan says, and this is in relation to the judge story, that's disgusting that they would throw those types of cases out. Yeah, like right now, if you want to be a criminal, you probably want to move to Alberta. I'm not encouraging you guys to go out and start, committing crimes. I'm just saying, if you're going to do it, you might as well go where you've got a better chance of getting away scot-free after you've been, after you've been caught. Holy cow. Wayne says the lack of judges may lead to vigilante justice. Victims will lose patience. Yeah, absolutely. Because what this will breed, obviously, is people will lose a lot of faith and trust within our judicial system. So yeah, and Wayne said there, vigilante justice. Maybe that's what you need to do. Paul says we should all go and steal some stocks in Alberta. Yeah, there we go. Oh dear. Why do I feel like I'm going to get arrested before this stream is over now? It's just fun. Ian says, I have a few friends back home who would like to time out right now. Tax evasion. Yeah. Well, there we go. And Vinit's in the house with a hey. Hello, Vinit. Good to see you. All right. Let's oh dear. We should move to the next story here before I get arrested for this. I'll be arrested as an accessory to all the crimes those of you in Alberta start committing because I told you you're going to get away with it. Oh gosh. Now this is an interesting story. It's an interesting because I am going to have to pronounce a name that I am going to crucify because you guys know sometimes I have trouble pronouncing just normal names. Well, anyway, this is a Mi'kmaq Energy Bank story, and there's this agency, and I'm going to try to say it. It is the Wiskajanuku Matamotamawa Agency Limited. So those are any of you who are a Mi'kmaq, please forgive me. I have no clue how to say this. I am just getting by the skin of my pants on this one. But anyway, this agency, I'll just call them the WM agency for now. They are co-owned by 13 Mi'kmaq communities, and they have started to partner up with the Nova Scotia Power, basically to invest in these energy banks. Basically, so new energy batteries, so they're battery plants. And what they do is, in a nutshell, when you're in the off hour, these banks are drawing all kinds of energy from the system and storing it so that they can then give it back during peak times. So it's kind of this really neat way to sort of utilize energy. It's a good thing because it prevents things like brownouts, power outages, things like that. There's a lot of good to it. Now, the project itself, they have been given $18 million by the Canadian Infrastructure Bank, basically in the form of an equity loan. So they are set to begin construction this year in White Rock, Bridgewater, and Waverley. So those of you in Nova Scotia might know where those are. And the projects are going to be continuing all the way down to 2026. The first of these sites is expected to be operational by, next year. And these will be the largest energy storage projects in Atlantic Canada. So that's kind of cool. All right. Here we go. I fled the country. Mi'kmaq. All right, here we go. So Jordan would probably have a much better idea than I do. So there we go. But it's not so much the Mi'kmaq; it's this other name. And here, you know what? I tried to pronounce it. I will put the name in chat to show you what I was trying to pronounce. All right, here we go. This is the word I was trying to pronounce. Jordan, good luck if you could pronounce it. Then you are absolutely a rock star. Paul says, give the judge a reversal card. Babinator wants me to pronounce Gilliam. Gilliam. I'll go with that. Gilliam. Whoops. Vic says, what's your recommendation for USD cash ETF? I've tried a few, but what do you all remember to park cash while market remains red hot? Good question, Vic. I haven't really looked at any US cash ETFs, so I don't have one for that. And Jordan's saying, oh, that was quite a name. Yeah, exactly. Babinator, park your cash in XEQT or maybe VFV. All right, but those are on the Canadian side. I think they're looking for a USD one, perhaps something. Anyway, and there's that name once again. So those of you who can't see chat on the side, this is the name I was trying to pronounce. So how do you even begin? This is the thing. I don't know how to begin with that name. I'll try it one more time because why not? So I was like, Wiskajanuk, maybe? Oh, Metomotaknawo. All right. There was my try. JJ says, hey, y'all. Paul says, Vic, I use UCSH.U ETF for USD cash. So here we go. Brand new ETF from Horizon started January 17th or so. So first payment on February 7th was not a whole month. Okay. JJ's back in the house. Good to see you again, JJ. Yeah, it hasn't been that long, but it's been at least a few chats for sure. The Abinator says, add vowels to it. It might help. Yeah. Yes. Pat, can I buy a vowel? That might help as well. Now here's the thing too. I look at it. I'm going to skip you, Ian. I will come right back. Jordan has a pronunciation. Let's go with it. All right. Wiskij Inuk Mitmau Tak Nuo. There we go. That sounded much better than what I tried to say. Thank you, Jordan. Once again, you rock. Oh, this is awesome. Ian says, probably going to move everything to Wealthsimple when I get back. I read if I have a stock in USD, but there is a CAD stock available. They will give it to me in CAD. Is there a downside to that? No, what it is that they're converting it. So you can hold, like within Wealthsimple, for example, we'll use Microsoft, for example. You will be able to hold Microsoft, but they will do all of that conversion for you. The downside, though, is that Microsoft doesn't have a huge dividend, but when you do receive that dividend, there'll be a conversion on that as well. What I usually would say is if your account is sizable, so like let's say if you have more than 100,000 that you're going to move in, then you will get a USD account within Wealthsimple for free. So you won't have to pay the $10 a month for the pro for that. In the case like that, if you move it over, they're just going to take that USD stock and they will throw it into the USD account. So you won't even have to worry in that case. That's if you have more than 100,000. If you have less than 100,000 and you still want that USD account and you don't mind paying $10 a month, you can certainly do it that way as well, just to sort of keep that in mind. All right. And Vic says, thanks, Paul. Just what I was looking for. Perfect. King of Day is in the house with a hello, happy family day. Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys do anything on Family Day, or is it just too cold this time of the year to do anything on Family Day? I don't know. Or is it just a nice day to get caught up at home and maybe catch up on some Netflix or something else? I don't know. JJ says, I've seen every playbook, but it's good to be back on the live stream again. Oh, every playback. There we go. Oh, good. Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, thank you for watching the playbacks. It's kind of interesting. Like, I get a good number of you guys here live, but a lot of people do watch it on the playback. And I always want to say, and I haven't yet in the stream, thank you guys who watch it on the playback. So that's a shout out to you guys as well. And here, I'll tell you something else. If you were on the playback and when you watch religiously every playback, but you can't be here on the live and you want a shout out, let me know. Reach out to me. I have no problem throwing a shout out for you, on the live show. Sophie says, happy family day, crew. JJ says, I have a volleyball tournament later tonight. Awesome. I was never very good at volleyball. I always found that it hurt my wrist every time I hit the ball. So that was kind of fun. Bismarcky says, I avoid my family. Oh, fair enough. I know my family. I mean, I enjoy visiting my family. But there's a time limit to how much you can visit your family before things start to erode. And then it becomes a little bit less enjoyable, let's just say. Ian says, I'm talking about ENB and BNS. I own them in CAD and ENB. Okay. Well, also keep in mind, just because you hold the US versions of those, you can still hold the US versions of them in Wealthsimple. So they won't necessarily, I don't know if they're going to, you said something about them converting it to Canadian, but they don't necessarily have to, especially if you have more than 100,000 and you have the US version, you should still be able to, as far as I know. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that. And they're like, no, you can't hold it. I've never tried to, but I can't see why that would be. I mean, they are coming from two different markets, one being the TSX, the other being the NYSE. Let's see here. Paul says, BN in USD versus BN.TO. Well, simple, just journal the NYSB over to with no conversion. And that's the thing. I mean, because technically to do that, you would have to sell the BN from the New York Stock Exchange and then convert it and then buy it from the TO, because they are two different exchanges. So I'd have to see. I've never seen that. I've never actually run into somebody doing this. So if anybody has done this, speak up, because I'm not sure. Other than I just know that logically what should be going on here. Mary says, hit the like button. Yeah, absolutely. Hit the good old like button. Turn it blue. That way there it lets the algorithm know that we are here and we're doing our thing. I have not yet had a coffee. Hey, Starbucks, you guys should sponsor me, because I'm using your mug on air. And there's at least one person in the chat right now that's thinking, I would love to have a Starbucks coffee. I don't know which one, but one of them is, and that's because of this mug. So that's why you should pay me, Starbucks. Oh, that's good. All right. Well, let's see. Vic's doing the math. So Vic is the Mr. Livestream math. So 43 here and 19 likes. Press the button. Yes, absolutely. Hit the button. Let's get it to 43. If we get 43 here, let's get 43 likes. Let's do it. Why not? King of Day. Watching Planet of the Apes later with the kids after the stream. Awesome. I've seen a couple of the Planet of the Apes. I think I've seen the first two, and I've missed the last couple, but I know there's a new one coming out, so probably should get caught up on that. And Paul says, Wealthsimple doesn't let you buy BN on the New York. Oh, okay. If they're not even now, Paul, have you tried to do it with a US account? If you've got a US account, I'll be curious to know, but that's interesting. If they won't let you do it, then that's really interesting. Okay. Ian says, I read they convert it to CAD. Is holding a Canadian stock in USD better than CAD? I wouldn't say it's better. I mean, if you have a Canadian stock and you're holding it, so let's just say, I don't know if we're probably still talking about BN, for example. We'll use Brookfield Corporation. If they won't let you hold it, then it's a null situation. Then you're just simply going to have the Canadian one, which is really interesting, because I know with National Bank I'm pretty sure I can hold both at the same time. Now I kind of have to do an experiment and find out. That's really fun. That's funny. I don't know what's going on with that. If you can't do it, like I said, it's a moot point. When you're holding, so let's just use something. I'll use a totally different example. So example, if you're holding an ETF in Canadian funds, or let's say a US, let's use a Bitcoin. So if you're holding, let's say, uh, let's see, let's say Bitcoin. I'm trying to remember that. My mind has gone blank. But let's say you're holding a Bitcoin ETF that's hedged to the Canadian dollar versus one that's hedged to the American dollar. The difference between the two is that the one that's hedged to the American dollar doesn't have to worry about all of the conversion stuff. Not the conversion, but just they don't have to worry about the Canadian dollar and its difference to the American dollar. And the reason for that is that Bitcoin, of course, is hedged to the American dollar. So it makes it kind of a pure thing. So when I, for example, I use like BTCC.B when I'm swing trading. And the reason I use that one is that it's a direct relationship to the US dollar. So when I watch the price of Bitcoin and I see it moving, I know exactly what that ETF is going to do. So I know exactly what kind of what kind of movement, and it's fast. It's almost at the exact same moment. Like it's very, very fast. Now, if I was using the unhedged version, then I also have to take into consideration what the Canadian dollar is doing in relationship to the American dollar, because that also is going to impact that price. So that's basically the only really difference is that you're dealing with that extra factor in your calculations. So let me just put it that way. Sophie says we got 23 likes now. Okay, well, we're getting there. We're slowly getting to 40 to 43. JJ says, I've seen the first two Planet of the Apes 2, not the third one. All right, so we're both in the same boat then. All right, there we go. Prairie says, not a fan of Starbucks, but have a Tim's in hand while watching the stream. Yeah, absolutely. If I had like this mug, and this is the thing, it's just so solid and durable. It holds the heat pretty darn well. So if I had a similar mug with Tim Hortons, I would be okay with that as well. So just keep that in mind. All right, there we go. Paul says, yes, have a U.S. account. If Canadian company on TSX and NYSE like T.to versus TU, you're only allowed to buy. Okay, that is really, really interesting. See, here you go. I have now learned something on the stream. I'm like, wow, okay, I did not realize that, but I've never tried it, so that's really, really interesting. Cool. I am going to try it, though, over on the National Bank direct brokerage just to see if it works, because that to me sounds kind of interesting. All right, let's see here. Vic says, just watch Trevor Noah Netflix special, Top 5 Things White Folks Like. It killed me. I don't know what those top 5 things that white folks like. Complaining, maybe. I don't know. It's funny, but maybe. Number 1 was Sweet Caroline. Yeah, very interesting. Neil Diamond, right? I think. Ian says, I sold BHP and had USD to reinvest, so I bought BNS. I could sell and buy a USD only stock to keep my USD. I guess I already had to pay the conversion to get the USD once. That's the thing. You don't want to be moving money back and forth a lot between a US and a Canadian account and paying all of those extra conversion fees. So that's definitely not something you want to do very much of it, if at all. Paul says, I bought ARC-B on Friday. And and ENGH. There we go. Yeah, ENGH. That was the last deep dive. Now our next deep dive, I think it's looking like it's going to be XEQT. They're right now leading the vote. But if you go over to the community tab, you got the you definitely got the, you can do whatever you want. You can go there, you can vote whoever you want. And if you don't like them, throw in the comments the ones you want to see, because I need to fill up that pool. So I have ETFs to pull from the next time we do another ETF deep dive. Vic says, how the heck are dual listed NYSE and TSE stocks so closely correlated? Well, it's the same company, right? So you take it, whatever's happening to Toronto, let's say, TD Bank, we'll use them as an example. Well, it's happening to that company, and it's not a different company in the US. It's still TD. It's still got the same market cap. It's still got the same cash flow overall. So they're going to be very, very closely related. The only real difference you're going to see between the prices is um, things happening with the US Canada dollar. So that will be your big, the big difference between the two anyway. Wayne says, I visited the Starbucks coffee farm in Costa Rica last year, Hasenia Alaska. I just north of San Jose. Okay, I got San Jose. I'm pretty sure I did crucify the other location there, name, but I'm okay with that. We all know you give me some strange name and I'm going to crucify it. We know this. This is a given. This is absolutely a given. Vic says we all need to unite, rise up, galvanize our community, do the right thing, and hit the like button. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There we go. Hit the like button, folks. Paul says UCSH.U is in USD, but Canadian ETF company Horizons. Yeah. A lot of times it's if you get a .U or sometimes a .B, you have to look at it for each company, but some companies will offer you that hedge to the US dollar one. Paralovia says, did you all get more BCE at near 50? I personally did not, but did anybody jump in on BCE this week? It'd be kind of interesting to hear. Ian says, BNS earnings report February 28th, buy before or after? That's going to be an interesting thing. I have a feeling that whatever we're going to see on these banking reports, I don't expect them to be like anything really stellar. I don't expect any big explosions. Usually there may be one that has a really good report. I would say your best bet right now is just a dollar cost average. So if you're thinking about, let's say you're thinking of buying $500 worth of BNS, buy 250 before and 250 after, and you're going to get the best of both worlds by doing that. Now, I will say that there is a video, I haven't yet watched it yet, over on Beavis Wealth. I think Mark Beavis went and just did a breakdown of what to expect on these banking reports. So that might be something to watch. It might give you a little bit of an insight. The other thing is that once all of these banking reports come out, so in March, I'll be doing my bank thing because I think a bunch of you guys said, please keep doing your bank review on all of the reports after they come out. So we'll be doing that again. I think we did it last time. We'll do it again. Oh, this is kind of cool. Before we move to the next news article, somebody said I should bring back a battle. And it's a battle between Hammond versus Hammond. So HPS.A versus HMM.A. It's on the calendar. I don't know if I added it to the Facebook calendar, but it is on the calendar right now on Discord. I'm going to add it to Facebook soon enough. But yeah, that's coming up in March as well. So that is going to be absolutely cool. I'm looking forward to that one. Okay. Paul says the USBTC ETFs had no fees until a certain billion. And I think BlackRock IBIT has already gone above the no fee below 5 billion. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, they've been doing, these ETFs have been doing a lot better now that Bitcoin has been moving up. And Bitcoin, it had a pretty good week, even though right now it has fallen a little bit. It's down around 51 something USD. But it did break 52. So that's not bad. And I think it got really close to 53. So not bad at all, Bitcoin. Vic says Horizons ETF actually by Murray Assets in Korea. Okay. Mary wants to know, is Topicus, so topicus.com, is it at its peak? That's a good question. Now, here's the thing. Topicus is a spinoff of our big Constellation software group, and it's one of these ones that you look at it and you're thinking, my God, it has to stop, but it doesn't. I would say if anything, maybe you might get you may get a retracement before it goes back up, but It's one of these ones that I would still look at a dollar cost average on it, just because you can't really tell when it's going to happen. And when you look at, like, if you take a look at its price to earnings ratio, it's crazy. But it's the same thing with Constellation Software. Now they keep on going up, and I think long term, you're probably, here's the beautiful thing: if you buy it now and it's at its peak, even if it retraces, it's still going to go back up. You're still going to make money on the long term, but you'd have missed a small opportunity. But when you start looking out maybe 2-3 years from now, and you sort of look at where it's at then, you're not going to care whether you got it at this little peak or there was a tiny correction and you got it there. Both of them are going to look pretty darn good. So you're going to have some good profits either way. Patricia said, I did add in my BCE position while it's being down. Nice, nice. Prairie says, while I hold BCE, I hit up T.to to average down. Nice. And here we go. So change to spare is long on Topicus. So, and change to spare, we're talking about long options. So yeah, there you go, Mary. That is kind of where I'm thinking, like long term. I mean, there may be some corrections, but I think long term you'll be fine with Topicus. Vic says, stupid Motley Fool article says to put 10K into each of Shopify, CSU, and Topicus and gain 1 million in 10 years. The Motley Fool is it's one of those people, or one of those groups that you gotta take them with a grain of salt sometimes. They like to make very sensational claims, and the reason they do that, and a lot of times they'll make a claim, not give you any of their backup because you have to pay to access a lot of their stuff. So I always say, no, they're one of the ones that I would not pay to access their stuff. I'll just say this: I don't think it's valuable enough to do that. So, yeah. And down here, Kevin says they don't have "fool" in their name for any other reason. So maybe. And Vic thinks we're in the Roaring 20s. Well, that's not good. That's not good because the Roaring 20s led us into something else. It led us into a depression, but I don't think that is going to happen. So I think we're fine here. Prairie says, Candace, thank you again for the ENGH deep dive. I think it's a diamond in the rough. It is, and it's kind of funny. Like, I know when you first requested it, like I said, I went in, I just quick look at the 3 years to see what was happening. I looked at it and I wasn't impressed. I was like, oh, okay, what do we got here? But then doing the deep dives, going into their actual fundamentals, it should be this with every stock. You can't just look at a price and say, oh, look at this thing has fallen so much. Well, here's the thing: things that fall do have to come back up. Go in, look at the fundamentals. Always look at the big picture. And that's what happened with ENGH. When I went in, I looked at the big picture. I was like, look at this. And then when I got to the debt, and there was no debt. Oh my God, I love that. I love that so much about them. Vic said, CNBC always saying 6 trillion of cash on the sidelines. Can this be true? Well, it can be. I don't know if that's the exact amount, but it can be. But keep in mind too that it might be a peak of that. Maybe it's not that anymore. I don't know. I can't say yes or no to that, Vic. But there's definitely cash. I know. I've heard of people who are like, I think the market's still going down. I'm holding on to cash. There's people out there that are convinced that everything is going to just go completely over a cliff. And some of those people are holding cash and waiting for it to happen or hoping it happens. But I would not. I'm not in that camp. I'll just say that. Biz Markey says Motley Fool is just like a spam artist. Yeah, I think they are. They will occasionally. Now, here's the thing. I will say this: like, there are websites you can go to where people will actually give you the articles on the Motley Fool, that the ones that are behind the paywalls. And the ones I've seen behind the paywall have been absolute trash. Any of their stuff that they have put out that has not been behind the paywall tends to actually be better than the stuff behind the paywall. Probably because they're putting out stuff that makes them sound a little bit better because they want you to go behind the paywall. So, yeah. Paul says, what caused ENG to go down in the first place? Um, that's a good question, because one of the things I looked at when I was looking at them is the fact that the first part of it, like the first part of them going down, made perfect sense, simply because tech went into a bear market, and it was a very deep bear market for tech. I mean, tech fell hard, and tech was down right across the board. But then, when tech started to recover, at that point, I got the impression what ENGH was doing is they had some debt at that point. They were more concentrated on getting rid of that debt, and before they started recovering. So they didn't start to recover until about October of last year. But since October, they've, like I mentioned in the video, they're up 21% since October. So they are on the right trajectory. It just seems to me that they did take a little bit of time. And I think as well, I think they bought somebody, but I'm not 100% sure. Prairie would definitely know. Let's see. Paul says, I posted an ENGH dividend triangle. Price, revenue, EPS, dividend from dividend stocks rock over in the Discord. Yes, I saw that. Post as much as you guys want. I'm going to be looking to try to reorganize it over there as well a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier. So one of the things I did do today is I moved the general right up to the top, because I found new people coming in, started talking and saying, hey, hi, I'm here on the schedule. So any of you guys who have talked on the schedule, I'm going to probably delete you out of the schedule. So don't take it personally. It's just that I'm trying to keep the schedule for the schedule. Anyway, but feel free to still talk there. I don't care. I'll leave it there for a bit, and then I'll remove it just to keep the schedule nice and clean so people can find it easily. Let's see. Vic says, we have some decent tech stocks, but I get them all via XIT. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole thing about a tech ETF. It is a good way to get a really good exposure right across the board. Oh, and here we go. Prairie says, ENGH just closed on an acquisition. So there we go. That would explain the second part as well. So that's why, sometimes you run into stuff like that. Let me see here. The EPS estimates for coming earnings for EMG seem higher than the last quarter. Yes, both their earnings and their EPS are forecast to rise quite a bit. So that's not a bad thing. I'm really, like I said, I'm really liking them. I haven't yet added them to the 0 to 100K challenge, but I have added them to another account. It's time for, hey, Starbucks. Oh, that is so good. All right. And Vic says, honestly, all this stock analysis is a bit much for average Joe, so I index. Nothing wrong with that. Here's the thing. If you don't understand how to do a deep dive, if you don't understand, which stocks are the best for you, there's nothing wrong with going the index route. It is absolutely fine. And ENGH, let's see, TeleX's Solutions BV and TeleX's BV. Okay, let's get to the next news story. Aha, it's getting pretty. Oh, we're almost done, actually. All right. The news stories. All right, there we go. Shipping relief. There we go. Let me get rid of Prairie. They're blocking the smiley face on the cargo ship. So I know last week I was mentioning about how prices have dramatically increased in, the cost of shipping stuff. So there has been a little bit of relief on that. So the ocean freight rates from Asia to the US, they have started to decline. So it is offering some relief. It's still not the best, to be honest. It's still not the best, but there is some relief. So part of it, though, is you guys have all heard, of course, about what's been going on in the Red Sea. So the attacks that were in the Red Sea, they have begun to ease quite a bit. And that has freed up a lot of the global trade routes. So instead of having to go all the way down around Africa, they're able to go basically a more direct route now. So that is good. It has helped to ease inflation a little bit, as well as, cut down on some of the anxiety. But despite that, shipping costs are still up. They're still up. Now, here's the interesting thing. So when we look at East Asia to the U.S. East Coast, the rates have increased by more than 146%. And this is really weird. So this is going to the East Coast. When we look at going to the West Coast, I thought they should be lower, but they're not. They're actually up by 186%. So that's our good old shipping costs. So, we have to sort of see how that is going to boil down to. Oh, look at this. We got a new channel member. We got Kevin, Vancouver Isle guy, has joined the Banana Bread crew or the Banana Bread Brigade or the Banana Bread Militia. We got all kinds of names for us. So congratulations and thank you for joining. And we got Yes Haw. I think that's a yeehaw. And I joined the Banana Crew. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. It's good that you're in here. Now you'll have access. As a channel member, you're going to have access to all of the previous free stuff, all of the different live streams. They're all up there. In addition to that, you get to watch videos about a day early. So all of the videos on the channel, day early, you get to watch them. So it's kind of cool. So Paul says TXRH, Texas Roadhouse, has done better than the S&P 500. Nice. Nice. Absolutely. All right. Now we have... just to wrap up the crypto corner. So here's an interesting thing. So with the price of Bitcoin going up big time, and also, the whole crypto industry has looked very strong. So Coinbase, they had their earnings report that came out, and I think it was Thursday. And well, they did awesome. They absolutely exceeded expectations, and they were up. Just at the opening bell on Friday, they were up 16%. So that's absolutely cool. Now their transaction revenue, as well as their trading volume, it more than doubled from last quarter, which is, there goes my voice. So let's have another sip. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, they more than doubled. So that's kind of cool. Now, according to Coinbase, a lot of this success is basically credited to those new Bitcoin spot ETFs. And they were very deceptive because you have to realize a lot of the outflow when those ETFs launched was just people getting out of Grayscale and then moving back into other things. So that's all sort of evened out. And now we're at a point where I think we're going to see some really interesting movement on Bitcoin as we move towards the halvening. Now, once we get to the halvening, and this is kind of one of these things, this is kind of what I'm seeing. When we get to the halvening, let's say we get to 60,000. I'm just picking this out of the hat. So let's say we get to 60,000, we have the halvening. We're probably going to see a drop at that point. Now, the reason I say that is that when we get that drop, it usually takes, and usually it's because of the whole sell the news thing. So people will sell at that halvening. It's going to come down. We're going to have a bit of a drop. It'll be a good time to get in for new people, because then usually about a month after the halvening, that's when we really start to see things start to ramp up, and we tend to move into a bit more of a bullish effect from that halvening. And that's when, if we're going to hit 100K this year, you're going to see it about a month after the halvening. We're going to see things start to ramp up. It's not going to be like, it's not going to go from like, let's say we're at 60 and it drops down to 50, say 58. It's not going to go from 58 to 100 just bang. It's going to be a bit of a ramp up, but it's going to be really, really, really kind of cool. And it will be fun to watch, because I think a lot of people, at least in this community, probably have not seen a halvening before. So you can always go back and look at some of the past ones, but I think this is going to be really, really cool. All right. Paul says, Banana Bread Crew. Absolutely. Oh, and now I can, just give me a second here. Now that we've gotten through the stories, we still have a couple other little things, but there we go. We can get rid of that. We don't even need that anymore, and we'll just move to regular size. There we go. Cool. Yeah, and let me get back to the chat. Let's see. Awesome sauce. I love that term. I love that term. Absolutely. Vic says 3 steps: close chat, hit like, reopen chat window. Okay. You could do that if you want to. Wayne says, Candace, just read Going Infinite by Michael Lewis. Excellent insight into development of Bitcoin. It's a biography of Sam Bankman-Fried. Very interesting. I have not read it, but have to put that on the back burner as one of the. There's a lot of books that I do want to read. Vic says, home now on toasted bread. I eat peanut butter and chocolate chips to make a Reese Pieces type snack. Okay, all right, there we go. Let's see, BBC, awesome. Paul says, I saw the 2017 BTC increase, then the big drop in 2018. Okay, very good. Yeah, and I think a lot of people here may probably have seen the giant. We had the double all-time highs back before we went into the crypto winter. I think a lot of you guys saw that. That was like what, 2021. Yeah, so now it's going to be very, very interesting. Now, depending on how sustained to get, there's a lot of people out there with a lot of opinions. I've heard people say, "Oh, it's going to get to 600,000." Maybe it will, but I don't feel confident enough to say that. I really don't. I think 100K is reasonable in the cycle, and we'll sort of we'll modify that as we go. But yeah, I'm not bullish enough to say 600K at all. The only thing I will say is if you're in a situation where you buy in and on some of these highs and it does drop, hold on for dear life, and not just sell, because that's what happened to a lot of people. A lot of people, when they bought in at the last huge hype section, when we were, when it was up around 60K, then it dropped. It was a massive after that, the drop. And a lot of these people ended up selling like at 20K or, or even peaked. It actually peaked, it wicked below 20K. Most people probably sold. I don't want to say most people, but the people who sold probably sold on the way down as it was going fast. It was actually funny. I was on a live stream. That was actually one of Friggan's live streams. We were on, and it was like in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden we happened to have the Bitcoin chart up on the screen, and it just went down. We just watched this insanely red candle. It was crazy. But it just happened that we were watching it and watching money disappear from a lot of people. And I think there's probably a lot of people who did lose and sold and realized that as losses and probably turned away from crypto saying, I'm never doing that again. But those who held on and have waited are, they're now slowly getting back to, where they were. Depending on when they get in. If they cut in on the way up, they may very well be back in the green at this point. Verena is in the house with a hi there. Vancouver says almost as bad as the CBC. The BBC and the CBC. There we go. JJ says, I'll join the banana bread crew too. Just got to wait till I get home later tonight. There we go. Well, yeah, congratulations. Welcome to the crew. I'll give you the welcome right now since I probably still won't be streaming when you get home. Vic says, Munger is turning over in his grave with all this crypto talk. He might be. I mean, I always look at it this way. The arguments that somebody like, for example, both, Munger, for example, was very adamant on saying, I would rather anything than a crypto. Well, I don't see crypto going down. I really, really don't. I don't see it ever going to zero. It's something that we're starting to get more and more acceptance in. I think it's something that it won't. But even if that was its ultimate goal, the reality is there's still money that you can definitely make along the way. So I kind of look at it that way. Like at one point, I mean, this is kind of interesting. If you go really, 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 really far back into the past, there used to be a time in the Netherlands when the most valuable thing you could own was a tulip. And they used to, it used to be this whole big thing with tulip bulbs. And they used to be, you could sell them for crazy amounts of money. But eventually that all came crashing down. So maybe that's not the best example, but it really comes down to what we decide is valuable is valuable. And crypto, I think, is at that point where we've got regulation coming. I don't see it as something that's going to go away. Something that happens and then goes away, or at least really falls, would be closer to something like the NFT craze. Where now I would love to see you try to sell a Bored Ape picture to somebody for a sizable amount of money, because I don't think it would happen. I mean, honestly, if I wanted a Bored Ape, I would simply go to ChatGPT and ask ask them to draw me a Bored Ape. That's what I would do, and then I would have a Bored Ape, and it wouldn't cost me anything. Let's see, Wayne says Sam's Bitcoin holdings have doubled lately, almost enough to pay back all of his investors. Wonder how that will affect his sentencing. That's a good question. If he actually were to pay them all back before sentencing, maybe that would have an impact. I don't know. It'd be hard to say. If only, just going back to this for a second, I'll say hi to you in a moment, Richard. If he were in Alberta, maybe he could get thrown out after 30 months. Oh, dear. Anyway, hi, Richard in Montreal. Good to see you. Kevin, how do you think the NVIDIA earnings call is going to go? I think it's going to be a very positive call, to be honest. It's one of these situations where if you're holding NVIDIA, you're going to be very happy after that earnings call. The next morning, you'll probably see a good pump, a big pump in the price. So yeah, I think that's going to go really well. Vic says, thanks, Candace. Bye. Oh, okay. Bye, Vic. Good to see you. Richard says Bitcoin is in a bull run right now. Can't go wrong. Yeah, it's definitely in a bull run. It's like right now, I think it's at I think it's actually come back up. It was at 51 something earlier. I just happened to glance over and it's showing me 52,129. So yeah, it's looking good. King of Day says my average cost base for Bitcoin is 28,945. Nice. You see, but look at this. King of Day is smart. He DCA'd. So he DCA'd down all the way from 6,600. So yeah, absolutely. That's the whole thing. You see, if you bought in, let's say at 6,600, let's say that was your first Bitcoin and all of a sudden it starts crashing. I mean, if you DCA as it goes down, you're going to pull that, you're going to pull that average cost base or adjusted cost base, depending on which one. You can use either word, by the way. So whenever you hear somebody say average cost base or adjusted cost base, they're talking about the exact same thing. You could bring that down quite a bit. So, let's say, at 66,000, if you bought say you bought 1,000 at 66,000 and then you bought 1,000 at 20,000, you're going to be bringing that down quite a bit. And then as it slowly climbs up, you're still adding to it. It's one of the beauties of dollar cost averaging. So I'm a huge fan of dollar cost averaging. Paul says, hope these Canadian crypto exchanges going bust will be a thing of the past, with the newest ones being Einstein and Catalyst. Yeah, I mean, I think what we're learning every time we get these exchanges that go bust, it's teaching everybody a lesson. One, it's teaching investors a lesson, so they're being being a little more careful. It's also teaching these companies a lesson, like what not to do, and it's also getting to the point where regulation is sort of learning from these as well too. So I think you're not going to see in the future as many of these fly-by-night ones that just go kablooey. But like I said, in Canada, if you're really, really, really worried, the ones like Shake Pay or Wealthsimple are going to be fine. You may end up, they may have a worse spread than some of them, but I think they're still going to be fine. And when Bitcoin does its run, whether you got it at a terrible spread, like with Wealthsimple, maybe you lost a couple percent from the spread. When it's all of a sudden doubled in price, you're probably not going to be worried about that one little, 1 or 2% or whatever it is. I haven't really looked at the spread on Wealthsimple. I think it was ShakePay at one point. It used to be around, was it 1.5%? Anybody who knows, definitely throw that in, because I don't know. Let's see, Vancouver Isle guy. Kevin says, Vic gone to eat his red green make Reese pieces minus the duct tape. There we go. Oh, the red green make. Yeah. The red-green version of Reese's Pieces. You gotta love that. You gotta love that. All right. So what's coming up this week? Coming up, we get in Canada. This is kind of fun. We actually have a report dropping tomorrow on the holiday. It's going to be our PPI. And then on Tuesday, we will have our CPI. So that will give us an idea of what's going on with inflation. Of course, our next Bank of Canada meeting on the rate for the rate decision won't be until March 6th. So we got a little ways to go before we have to really worry about that. When it comes to the U.S., there's really not a lot going on this week. Short week, President's Day, as I said, on Monday. So nothing really of significance. Earnings-wise up here in Canada, well, we got a few different companies like Suncor, Loblaws, Nutrien, Pembina. Somebody keeps telling me the B is silent. So Pembina Pipelines, they're having their earnings report as well. So we'll have to see how those all turn out. Paul says, and there's another one, CoinSquare is pretty good as well. So been using both CoinSquare and ShakePay for a long time. A few days ago, I lost my Shake streak. Oh, how big was your Shake streak at, Paul? How big? And Vancouver Isle guy, Kevin says 0 to 100K is 2%. Buy and sell 100 to 500K is 1%. Buy and sell 500K is 0.5% buy and sell. Okay, so is that on ShakePay or Wealth Simple? Just so I know which one we were looking at. Paul says Home Depot on February 20th earnings. Okay, yeah, exactly. I didn't like when I give the earnings coming up. I probably should do some of the American ones too, but I just basically give the Canadian ones. Oh, so that is Wealth Simple. Okay. Fair enough. Video-wise, so Monday is kind of cool. I was like, okay, who are the big growth winners so far in 2024? So on Tuesday's video, Monday for channel members. So Kevin, who just joined, will be able to watch it on Monday. We're gonna look and see whose share price in the Canadian stocks. We're not touching American for this. Whose share price in Canada has increased the most so far in 2024. So we got five people, and you guys can probably guess some of them. I'm not going to confirm any. Watch the video and find out, but we're going to do that. And I was thinking maybe later in the year we'll do another update on that, because I think that's kind of cool. Shake Street was at 650 sats per day. Yes, but how many days is that? I know it sounds like it's probably a fair number. Let's see. Oh, Sophie's on a 159-day shaking streak. Paul says, will Home Depot do worse than Canadian Tire earnings? That's a good question. That is a good question. I would have to look at Home Depot to see what they've been doing. I haven't really been paying a lot of attention to them. So I would have to look. I can't give you an answer right now. It would be pure speculation without the data. Vancouver Isle guy, Kevin says HMM.A. That one's kind of a no-brainer. I could say, well, you'll have to wait and see, but everybody and their dog knows that's probably on the list. But yeah, anyway, you'll still have to check it out. That's just been, there's been some good stocks out there this year that have been just absolutely bangers, including HMM.A. So we're going to look at a whole bunch of those on that one. And then, of course, we got a market close on Wednesday, as always. So we'll have some fun here. Those of you who can show up for that, let's have some fun on Wednesday. We'll figure out what the market's doing, and we'll go from there. Then we got our deep dive. This is going to be our new every month. We're going to do an ETF deep dive. So I'm going to even look like I'm actually looking like I have my format for my regular deep dive. So for this one here, I'm looking at shaking up that format a little bit just to make it a little more useful for an ETF. So you guys will see what I mean when we get to that deep dive. So that's going to be absolutely awesome. I can't wait. Paul says Canadian Tire earnings show the economy is not doing that great. Nope. The economy has slowed down. Now keep in mind, and here's the thing, when you asked about Home Depot, if you think about the economy, right, the US economy is doing better than the Canadian economy. So that might play a factor in who did worse. So that might work in Home Depot's favor. But once again, I would have to actually look at the numbers. Perlovia says, how much has the internet affected Canadian Tire? Take Amazon, for example. A lot. Well, I'll give you an example. I needed an ice picker. In the olden days, it would have been a trip to Canadian Tire to get an ice picker. Whereas today, it's like, nope. I just went on Amazon and ordered an ice picker, and it was a nice ice picker. I like it. Nice, comfortable, cushiony hand grips on it. So, I'm ready to pick ice. So, and when I'm saying ice picker, some people are probably picturing like a little ice picker for like for making ice cubes. I'm talking about the big long one that you use for bang, 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 crashing ice, like on your step or something. Now that almost looked like that's, if I'm crashing ice that way, it's almost like I've got part gorilla, like, hoo, 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 hoo. But anyway, we'll leave that as is. But yeah, no, we got the ice picker. So I imagine if I'm doing that, other people are probably doing that. I figure a lot of where Canadian Tire is probably getting their business is people who, well, one, you can order from Canadian Tire online, but I'm thinking where people are really is if you need it now, you can't wait that extra day. So you absolutely have it today. So that might be part of what's going on with them, at least when it comes to, getting stuff fast. Paul says, but we find ourselves going to Walmart instead of Canadian Tire, but Walmart has different stuff than Canadian Tire. Here's the thing. I mean, Canadian Tire, you're going to pay more, but I do find the stuff you buy is of better quality. So if you went to Walmart and bought a snow shovel, or you went to Canadian Tire and bought a snow shovel, you'll probably get more winters out of the Canadian Tire snow shovel than you're going to get out of the Walmart one. Just something that I've noticed. That's part of how Walmart keeps its prices down. The stuff is not always the best quality. And let's see. Kevin says we need to get Justin Castro out of office. Well, there's an election coming up in 2025. Agree with you. Can't get rid of him fast enough. Abalash says, how many cuts do you anticipate this year? Still think there will be a soft landing. I'm thinking our first cut's going to come in June, and that one's going to determine how many more we see in the rest of the year. I'm still thinking that we're probably going to see 3, maybe 4, but I don't think any more than that. I think we'll definitely see one in June. And if things stop, like if inflation, for example, stops moving in the right direction, they might hold off a little bit towards the end of the year for the remaining 2 or 3. And will there be a soft landing? Yes. And it's funny, even 3 months ago, I wouldn't have said yes to a soft landing. I would have said we're going to look at kind of a medium landing, if we can go between soft and hard. But yeah, I think we're going to just eke out a soft landing. Prairie says CTC reported a difficult Q4. Their stock started going down. Thoughts on their stock over the next few months? It's not going to be good over the next few months. I think a lot of the retail issues that we have right now are going to persist at least until the summer. In the summer, I think we will start to see things begin to turn around a bit. But for now, yeah, there's still going to be, I think, a little bit of difficulty. So I think the next Q, their next quarter is probably not going to be great. Paul says, Vancouver Isle guy, same thought. People need to stop voting for Liberals who bring in stuff that we're not voted in for. All right. Oh, oops, pull this up here. He's like a wet. Yeah, okay. We'll leave that one alone there, Kevin, but funny enough. Canadian Tire return policy is horrible. Uh-oh. I'm not sure what their return policy is, because I will honestly say I've never actually returned anything to Canadian Tire. But yeah, the Amazon one is easy as pie. It's like, heck, now they'll even send a guy right to your door, for a lot of items, and they'll pick it up. You don't even need to print anything off or anything. Just put it back in the box, and the courier comes to your door and picks it up from you. It's great. Paul says, I would never buy tools at Walmart, but maybe Home Depot or Canadian Tire. We have never bought paint at Canadian Tire or Walmart, but always buy the paint from Home Depot. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, Actually, most of the tools I have in the house came from Amazon. But they're, good names, things like, things like Stanley and stuff like that. So I've gone with recognizable names, but yeah. Oops. Prairie says, good old JT might be out of office this year if he doesn't produce pharmacare by the end of the month. NDP may call no confidence come March. That's a possibility. That is always a possibility. We'll have to sort of see. It's kind of one of the things. So I think I have a feeling that if it gets right, it'll get right down to the wire, and then the current government will back down a little bit and say, okay, yeah, we'll make some amendments to start moving towards that pharmacare, but we'll have to see. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, with what the agenda of the NDP, they did get that big win. They have gotten the dental stuff, and it's pretty much well ingrained on its way. So, and I'm actually, I mean, I may sort of lean conservatively, but I think the dental care is something that was needed. It's going to cost a lot, but that's why we're going to need to have savings elsewhere. We need to stop wasting money so that we can pay for programs like this. Let's see. Sophie says, I've bought paint at Canadian Tire. The customer service was really good as well. Okay, there we go. Whoops. Abalash says, I don't see Trudeau winning at all. Even his typical base, immigrants, youth, women, are against his policies this time. The scams, so Arrive can, and giving contracts to friends, donors don't help either. Yeah, I don't even think there's a chance at all in the next election. I mean, the tide has changed, and this is a normal thing in Canadian politics. Poilievre will get in. He'll probably get one term and have no real issues because he's going to be on his best behavior, and then he'll get a second term, and then we'll slowly start seeing different scandals and things start to filter in, and then whatever the new Liberal government is, they'll either come in after 2 or 3 terms. It always moves back and forth, so it's kind of one of these things. Like hopefully Poilievre has said he would get things under control, at least on the fiscal side. And hopefully he does that. Hopefully he does get that under control. And hopefully he does such a good job at that it sticks around into that next government as well. So Paul says, I'm afraid that pharmacare will not come in before the next election. And Liberals will say, if you want pharmacare, vote Liberal. It's a possibility. It is definitely a possibility. But keep in mind, too, a lot of places. So let's say, for example, Ontario, if you are low income, or not even just low income, but if you have really high pharmacy, needs, there are programs that you can get in on the provincial level that will take care of, most of your stuff as it is. So just something to keep in mind. So there is stuff still out there for it. The dental stuff, there's not. So that will be a good thing, I think, across the board. See, Sophie says Arrive scan, that would have contributed a lot of money to dental or pharmacare. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that Arrive scan thing or Arrive scam, I mean, that didn't turn out very well. But I mean, here's the thing too. I look at this as that, even with the dental, right now we've got like a hard cap. Like you either get it if you make less than this, or you don't get it if you make more than this. You could even set that up where if you're making between this and this, you get this percent type thing. You could probably even make it a little bit more cost effective. So that way there you can target it towards people who absolutely cannot afford it. So just something to keep in mind. All right. Whew, this has been a good stream. You guys have been absolutely awesome. As always, you guys are always awesome. If you got your last minute questions, now is the time to throw them into the chat. Because, that way there we can get them nailed. We can get them hammered out before I go. Paul says, I have good extended health for prescriptions that pay 80% until it has paid the family $1,000. then covers $1,000, then covers 100%, but I pay $262 a month to have this coverage. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of jobs, like if you have a half decent job, you're going to have, usually you'll have some pretty good dental as well as medical, which is really good. But nonetheless, the prescriptions can be definitely expensive. And here's the funny thing: there are prescriptions out there that you know they just don't, for whatever reason, have generic brands. So there are some ones out there that are just absolutely crazy expensive. So let's see. Kevin says, Confucius say man who go through airport turnstile sideways is going to bang. Oh, dude. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the rest of that. Yes, another one to skip. And I am definitely skipping that one. Um, oh, it's the Newfoundlander in you. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That is from the pension. Okay. All right. We're going to jump down here to Les. Canada needs to decide if we want to be Europe or US. Currently, we have high taxes with Medicare services, the worst of both worlds. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always need of reform. Um, we need to take care. I mean, healthcare, it's nice to have free healthcare, but at the same time, we need to make sure people can actually get healthcare. So that is one of those things to keep in mind, because right now we're at that situation where, unless you have, I'm going to start this off with a caveat. If you have something life threatening, you will get care immediately. It's fast. At least for most of Canada, maybe not so much. I have heard of some horror stories in some places, so I would I would be a little careful of those. Let's see. The dividend investor ZPA is in the house with a hello, all hello, dividend investor. It is always good to see you. Paul says, "Watch out, Candace, that people don't sneak in the Howard Stern radio words to make you say something you wouldn't want to say." Yes, now I know I have to watch. I have to watch Kevin carefully. Yeah, he may be a new community member, or a channel member, but he's got that Newfoundlander sense of humor. So, and so to date, there's only been one curse word that has actually been said on my channel. And that was a guest. That was a guess. They said the S word. Not really that bad of a swear word, but they did say it once. And I think he regretted it the second he said it. So those of you who, who do you guys think it was who said the S word on my channel? Throw in your throw in your answers down below. Those of you who've been around for a while, because I haven't had live guests on for a couple of years since I've been doing the this week part. But this is back when we had Saturday night live stream, when we did the Saturday night live stream. So just funny if somebody remembers who it was. No, it was not Skiz. It was not Skiz. And yeah, absolutely. Point this out here. So the dividend investor, he does make some great videos. So, once you're finished watching all my videos, head over and check out the dividend investor. He's got some good content over there. So absolutely. There's a little, I'm sorry. That's okay. That's okay. It's funny. It was funny. And it's funny because I'm now getting to the point that I got so many people in these live streams that, I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to have to start skipping little things. So like skip something like somebody going, laugh my ass off. Oh, there you go. You got me to say a bad word. Well, it's not that bad of a bad word, but anyway, yeah, that's one of those things. Now, Paul says some of the new US people who are YouTube creators are now on Blossom. Someone named Mark does US videos. Yeah, absolutely. Blossom has expanded into the US. So one of my favorite kind of YouTubers in the US, Joseph Hogue. So he's now on Blossom. So he's pretty cool. Now he's huge. He's I think he's got like is it 500,000 or something, or 600,000 subscribers? So he's definitely huge. But Brandon Beavis, Brandon Beavis. There we go. He reached out to him, and he came on board. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of great people on there, and we're starting to pull in the Americans. And I actually think they just added an ambassador from Europe. So I didn't even know we were planning on moving into Europe, but there are some meetings coming up, just like a lot of behind the scenes stuff coming up that I'm looking forward to with Blossom. So, and I will of course come back and I will tell you guys what I know about it. So nobody remembers who it was who said the S word on the channel. I will give you a hint. It was somebody who was on a Canadian TV show. It was that hint alone should give it away if anybody knows who I'm talking about. So somebody who was on a Canadian TV show said the S word on my channel. So there we go. There we go. There we go. I knew it. I knew Jordan would get it when I said that. Yeah, it was Tim Danter. Tim Danter accidentally, and he caught himself the second after he said it. That's funny. Terry says, you are all validating my continued buying of Amazon, but shedding a teardrop of sorts because nuts, bolts, appliances, and whatnots are my go-to store. Never HD a problem with returns at Canadian Tire. There we go. There we go. Paul says, I would like to see a USA flag next to the person's name on Blossom, so you know what their post would be about. That makes sense. Now, there is something going on with the Blossom algorithm. It's supposed to be set up so that whether it takes a look at your location. So, for example, if you're a Canadian, it's going to show you Canadian content, unless you follow. So let's say if you followed some of the American ambassadors or American folks, then you would see them, like you'll see anybody who you follow. But I think it's supposed to sort of look at it so that way if Paul goes in and is just looking at the main feed, he's going to see Canadian content plus the US folks. So I think they're working on that. But I like that idea of the USA flag next to a person's name. I'll bring that up. I'll bring that up at the next meeting because I think that's a really, really good thing. And Jill pops in and says, it was Tim Danter and I want to eat dinner. Okay. That's because I gave the get your final thing in about 8 minutes ago. So she's probably down there going, let's get the food going. All right. Anyway, this has been a fantastic stream. You guys rock. We'll be back here. We'll do it all over again next week. It's going to be fantastic. Until then, take care. Bye, everybody. See you later.